Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Bailey. Welcome back to Never Too Early. Never Too Early is a podcast under the Entrepreneurs Network, a network for and by female entrepreneurs. This podcast showcases youth changemakers, whether it be entrepreneurs, activists, NGO founders, or more, encourages them to share their journeys, challenges, and tips, and aims to inspire other teens and young adults to make a difference as well.
Today we have on Akshara, the Outreach Director of Zenerations, a platform showcasing stories centered around Gen Z, including their talents, achievements, thoughts, lifestyles, and experiences. They aim to establish a sense of community, diversity, and positivity through articles on life, art, music, photography, politics, school, pop culture, and interviews with accomplished teens. Keep listening to learn more.
Welcome back to Never Too Early. I'm Bailey Cherry, one of your co-hosts, and today on the podcast we have Akshara from the Zenerations team. So before we dive right into it, one question that we like to ask all of our guests is, what is something you are grateful for today?
Something I'm grateful for today is that I'm in the middle of my midterm season, so I haven't completely failed any of my midterms. I know that for a fact. So I am very grateful that I have the time to study and for all sorts of caffeinated beverages. I don't know if I'm drinking coffee right now. I'm very grateful for coffee, Celsius, any sort of energy drink because it has been keeping me awake for the past couple weeks.
I love that, and I'm in the same boat. We don't really know what's up with our exams because of COVID, and so many decisions are being made in online school and that kind of stuff. But regardless, I rely heavily on any form of caffeine. So I'm with you on that one.
So let's dive right into it. For those that have not really heard of Zenerations or doesn't really know what you do, would you mind giving a brief introduction to who you are and what Zenerations is?
So, Zenerations was founded in spring of 2020 by Sofia Del Razio, and it was it was created to resemble a blog kind of. But then, as you know, this was peak COVID, and as we had all the different issues with COVID popping up, it started to turn into a little bit more of current events and meshed with content about what Gen Z cares about. And now we've kind of transitioned back into a more pop culture kind of a more pop culture kind of vibe. And we have content on art, life, music, photography, and you name it, we talk about it. Anything regarding Gen Z or anything regarding Gen Z would care, something that Gen Z would care about, we talk about it.
Yes, I absolutely love that so much. And yeah, so you mentioned that Generation sort of started amidst COVID, especially in the beginning of it. And so it's really only been around for a little while so far, but it's incredible to see that the work you guys have done already. But anyways, why do you think having a platform like Generations is essential in this day and age? And why do you think this sort of media kind of resonates with Gen Zers?
I feel if you look at, especially with our current events, if you look at, you see news sources like CNN, and of course they are incredible news sources, but they just don't resonate with Gen Z because they don't have anything that they don't have a link to Gen Z of why should Gen Z care about this? And sometimes for me, when I consume CNN, NPR, sometimes I get a little confused because I'm I'm speaking towards current events specifically. There's so many, it's not simplified enough, and I feel a lot of Gen Z specifically sometimes comes to Generations because they want to look at simplified news. And all of us at Generations, we work really hard to synthesize a bunch of different news sources to try and put it into one post. And then I also think for our current events, for our pop culture, stuff, I think it's important to have a platform because we like to talk about issues that haven't been talked about. We had a post about boba a couple months ago. It was about why boba, the packaging is bad for the environment. We highlight issues and communities that aren't talked about. And with the boba post, for example, I would have never thought that like the thought had never crossed my mind that like the plastic that boba generates is bad for the environment. And like that's what we like want to spark conversations about things that haven't been talked about essentially.
I love that. And the example you gave about boba, at first I was like, oh, does Generation make posts about like how good boba is? Because I for sure agree with that. But no, it's like even more than that. It's talking about how like it links to sustainability and environmentalism. And I think like that's really one of the things, as we mentioned before this podcast, how how Gen Z is so creative and innovative in a way that no one could expect what we're doing. Um, so like you talked a bit about like how like the audience of Generations would like to check out different posts or interesting facts or interesting topics on your platform. But how about you yourself? So like maybe look back a bit, what made you decide to work with Generations?
So this was, let me, summer of 2021, like summer and spring of 2021, I was seeing all these posts from Generations pop up on like people were reposting them. And I was like, who are these people? I was really confused because I was like, who are these people? Why are all these famous people reposting Generations? So I basically did the whole like where you tap on a post and like you go on Instagram to see like what the account is. So then I sat like scrolling through Generations for a while, for like an hour, and then I saw that there was writing applications. So I applied to be a writer where some of my articles have actually come out. I've written about like the importance of like POC representation in novels and like what it means to be a third culture kid because I lived in the Middle East my entire life. And then I recently joined on as Outreach Director last November of 2021.
Yeah, okay, wow. I love that so much. And I love how well, two things. The first thing I want to say is prior to this podcast, I did sort of like search you up on LinkedIn and I did see your post on being a third culture kid. And I definitely really resonated with that as someone who is based in Hong Kong, but half American and half Filipino. But I was born in Singapore. So I'm just like from everywhere, right?
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
really resonated with that. I just want to let you know, like, I hear you. I loved it. And then the other thing I wanted to say is it's really insane to see like how powerful social media is in like roping you in and then getting you involved with such a powerful cause. I think this is something that like sets Gen Z apart from like most people, which is um, the force of like social media for good.
Yes.
Because like when older people like perhaps like my grandparents, parents see it, they obviously like social media, but they see it as a form of like entertainment. Content to consume that's fun, that gives you updates on the lives of your friends, family, etc. I think that only Gen Z and only people of this generation truly understand the lengths that it can go to, like in making a actual tangible difference. Which is sort of why I think we see a lot of these like youth organizations that start off as Instagram pages or like websites, and they just continue to grow and grow and grow. But with Generations, I think one thing that sets it really apart is just like the sheer size of the platform. So for teens out there, with their own platform or looking to grow it, and like as an outreach director yourself, do you have any advice on, managing PR, managing a site of that size, working with a team of that size, perhaps? Any like tips here or there?
My main tips, so I do a lot of emailing people. You have to know how to write a good cold email. You have to be able to, as an outreach director, my main thing is like, I always have to know like what's going on in the org and like I always try and keep myself in the loop. Not as much to like be involved or anything, just so I can know. And you have to, number one, know how to write a good cold email, which is like you have to be able to effectively summarize what your org does, what you like. If you're, let's say you want to partner with somebody, you have to know how to effectively say like, we want to partner with you because of this and this. And then also, this is just something that I like to do is I try my very best to be punctual when responding to emails and Instagram DMs. I feel like that if you are an org or an outreach director, I feel like for me, that's my main priority. If somebody emails us with a question, I try and respond as soon as I can but obviously like life gets in the way sometimes, and I feel like I really respect people who respond quickly to me, whether it's on email or Instagram. So I try to do the same because I want people to know that like Generations is open to suggestions, is open to partnerships, and like we're not going to let your email be like a random email in my inbox, and like that we respond quickly, and we like want to keep it, we want to keep make sure that like our org is connected to everyone else.
I love that. And I think with, as we mentioned just now, how social media is so prevalent in this Gen Z era, it's even more important to be very updated and punctual in a sense to like reply to any emails or DMs so that people know that you care. And
Yeah.
like knowing that they would be even more eager to like work with you or collaborate. Just now you mentioned about like how you know how to type a good cold email. I think that a lot of us would want to know the tips. So could you run us through it or any tips for writing them?
For me, I have like, dear so and so. I would either, depending on the situation, I would say like, my name is Akshara, and I am the outreach director from Zenerations. Zenerations is a dot dot dot. And then like saying something about what they've done, like you elaborate on their work, and you talk about the work that whatever org you want to partner with or the person that you want to partner with. And then you detail what does the partnership entail, and you have to make sure that you cover all of the different boundaries, because for me, I like, you have to make sure you outline the partnership quickly, like completely, and you have to make sure that there's no room for like, there's no room for gaps, and you say with like the partnership would entail, or like using similar language, dot dot dot, and then you say something like thank you for reading this email, thank you, we hope to partner with you, we're so excited, and you just wait, and then you like sign your name.
Absolutely, I love that. That was like a quick, concise rundown of what, a partnership email should look like. And I do think partnerships are like an essential part through so many of these organizations because we really benefit off of each other's networks, giving each other advice and that kind of stuff. But um, I'd also like to know what you think constitutes like a good, successful partnership, whether it be like how you decide whether or whether not to partner with an organization, all the way to perhaps like how do you collaborate with these other organizations?
What I look for in a partnership is, I look for like, a lot of the times I look for someone like with an org that it's like going to be like mutually beneficial. Obviously, that's, I guess that's self-explanatory. As becoming the outreach director, I like partnering with organizations with like unique messages, and messages that relate obviously, since we are a Gen Z led organization, to Gen Z issues, and like, and I always ask myself the question like, why would Gen Z care about this? How would Gen Z care about this? I like to partner with orgs that are like, sometimes that are smaller but have really good messages, and like messages that we can amplify as like a community.
I love that. So like really sometimes it's the message that really
Yeah.
matters. It doesn't matter whether they are like a smaller organization or they're just starting. And I think I really appreciate you for, using Generations as a platform to amplify some of these messages that other like teams are starting to advocate for. With such a big platform and a big, huge following, I think that really does make a difference and perhaps introduces your audience to some other topics that they would never have thought of. So, as an outreach director of Zenerations yourself, how do you think your work has impacted the expansion of the organization? Or what do you think is the importance of your role within this organization?
Number one, I feel like just meeting new people like you guys. As I've become outreach director, I've met so many incredible people, and with so like incredible stories, and I've started to like work on a bunch of partnerships. TBD, they're coming out soon. Um, so I've just been able to meet so many people and like create a net of, I like a little like fishing net of Gen Z orgs. Like, we've the people that I've met, we've been able to like not utilize each other. Utilize is the wrong word, but we've been able to like pick each other's brains about like just random things, like whether it's like org related or like life related, and we've been kind of working together to just spread a larger message about like Gen Z.
I love that so much. Oh my gosh. And Yeah, it's really like the power of collaboration and working together takes you so much farther than if you were to do it alone. And I don't know, I just really love that message. Um, so you mentioned a bit about, collaborating among other organizations, but I also think there's a special need to collaborate well, like among the team itself. And from my understanding, there are various roles and various like teams at Generations. Do you have any suggestions for collaborating in an organization that has a growing team?
For me, I feel like I'll speak directly to our board of directors. Our board of directors, like we are genuinely very, very good friends with each other. Like we have a board of directors group chat. We like it's not all work. I feel like the most important thing to do with collaborating within an org is to like, yes, I'm very much like if we got to get something done, we have to do it. But it's taking the time back to talk about random things. Like our social media director, Belle and I both love Harry Potter. So a lot of the times, like if we randomly or like we're talking about something social media related, but then Belle talks to me about Harry Potter and we've developed friendships. I think that's really important is you like it doesn't all have to be about work would be my main thing. And like it's so important to actually become friends with the people that you work with. And it's when you become friends with the people that you work with, you know that you can count on them. Like if I ever needed something, I would and like if I couldn't like come to work and like work for a week, I'm incredibly comfortable to go like text Sophie and be like, hey, this and this is going on with my life. I don't think I can I don't think I can work this week. And it's creating that level of trust within whether it's within your board or within your just general team and making sure that you're like accessible. My main thing is like a board member of Generations is just to be accessible to the team. So like anybody can message me on Instagram or on our like platform on Geneva and it's making sure that you like as a board member can are like you can be talked to. Like you're not this like really scary person who is super serious all the time. And I think that's super important for me.
I really love how your organization, like your entire board, is such close friends. I think it's not that easy actually for student-led organizations. You come from like different schools, different backgrounds, even different countries, maybe. And like the ability to become such great friends, of course, it comes from you guys, like building the friendship. But I also think like within Generations, your entire like camaraderie, it must be very nice. And also I think two things that I took away from your answer just now was like one, trust, and second, communication. I think like trust really takes a long time to build and it's very easy to be broken. So to be able to have that long-term trust and really have each other's back, I think that's very important and probably one of the reasons of for generation success right now. And also communication is so important. Like if you're not like ready that week or if you have something else on your plate, it's all right, but you have to tell each other. I think like that's a main point from of working with each other, and especially if you don't really know each other that well at first, to have the ability to communicate honestly and also like thoroughly, yeah, that's very important.
Like if you don't know somebody, like if I didn't know Sophia, for example, on a personal
Mhm.
level, then I would feel like I'd be terrified because
Yeah.
Sophia is like she's so cool and she's so accomplished and like but you get really sometimes like if I didn't know her, I'd be like of course like now that I know her, I obviously think that she's the coolest person ever, but I'm like there'd be this level of like fear, like an oh crap, like I can't tell her like
Yeah.
I have to do all my work this week. Like it's like it'll be fine. Like we have a really large team, so if I'm gone for a week, it's like it's not like we have people who are more than willing to help out and we really help each other out. Not with like generation with like life stuff as well. Like I can talk to Sophia if I'm like if I'm having like a personal if I'm having like a personal problem or if I'm having a bad day, I can like go and like if we have a weekly call, I can go like vent,
Mm.
which is really nice because I would genuinely consider like Sophia and all of the other board members like good friends.
That is
That's
so
so sweet.
lovely.
And like I think that's so important too because like when you first sign up for something like that, you don't really think about like the human behind the organization. And or even if you do think about the human, you think they're this like perfect, productive machine that just keeps putting out good content. But at the end of the day, like they're just like you and they totally get it. And I also feel like I had the same experience working on this podcast, because we're part of a bigger network, and there are these two girls who initially started and like founded it, Allie and Waylon, who both go to amazing schools. They have everything all together, and they're just so amazing, when you look at like their profiles from like a sort of academic or career based point of view, and then you get to meet them and you also know that the personality wise they're so kind and like funny and just amazing in that sense too, that it's like, wow, like they're not only someone who's incredibly smart, but they're also people who are friends and who you can turn to, like they're more than just like coworkers, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah.
I love that so much.
I feel like there's a large pressure on people who are in these positions to be put together, to be perfect, to especially like for generations to produce everything all the time. Like we are humans, we love what we do, but sometimes we mess up, and I feel like that speaks to just like youth org culture. Like I feel like there's a lot of the times there's that pressure to do everything all the time. And like the best work I've done hasn't been on 2 hours of sleep. The best work I've done has been on 9 hours of sleep plus like a nap. Like it's like
Yes.
there's this pressure to like chug out content, and I feel like sometimes when it's current events, like yes, it's important to get the event out, but it's important to take the time to create. I'm speaking directly to content to create like a nuanced take on things, because I feel like that's so important to just like and take time to also just like rest as people, and like because all of us, I'm a junior specifically, so I'm in the middle of like taking my ACTs plus doing a bunch of other things plus being on the board of Generations. Like
It's so funny you mentioned that. Because like we totally get that, and we actually like saw each other at ACT.
Especially with like all the hustle culture. And honestly, I think a part of student-led organizations makes me even more stressed about like what I should do, because like all of these leadership position people, they're like they already have their entire lives ready when they're like 16, and I'm like, what am I doing? And especially with social media, it's so easy to compare with each other. You go like, I don't know what I'm doing. They have like a million organizations in their Instagram bio, and I'm like, I like food.
And their LinkedIn.
Oh my god.
it's that scares me so much. As an outreach director, I go LinkedIn lurking. I lurk a lot. I'm in a
But
complex.
yes.
I'm really good at lurking on LinkedIn, and I just like and I see people, and I'm like, oh my God, like you are incredible. And I feel like it's very hard not to compare. Like you see people, especially work for other youth orgs, and I feel like this is just useful advice for anyone who's in a youth org. You do what you're capable of, and everyone has different life circumstances. Like I might be doing something a little extra here, but this person may not be doing something extra, or I might have another extra responsibility where I have a job and this person doesn't have a job, which speaks to me not being able to like be the captain of the football team. Like it's everyone has different life experiences, responsibilities, and like and everyone like and some people can function on 3 hours of sleep. Some people cannot, like me. Everyone has a different story, and you can't compare, because like you don't know what the other person's going through and they don't know what you're going through, to make like you join all these organizations and like when they don't.
I love that conversation, really. And I think there's so much to take away from that, especially I think our listeners are probably, youth organization members or even leaders. And so
Yeah.
like that's a lot to like remind ourselves about. So shifting gears slightly, we'd like to learn more about the future of Zenerations. So what is your vision for Generations, perhaps mainly as an outreach director, or any like new projects, upcoming projects that Generations have in store?
So that's perfect because we wanted to talk to you about the sector project. We just relaunched it. We're very, very excited. So we have four different sectors: climate change, LGBTQ, and then we have racial justice, and we have the gun control sector. So if you guys, after this, if you guys want to check out our Instagram, if you scroll down a little bit, we have a little post about the sector relaunch, but I'm just gonna recap it a little bit. So for our gun control sector, we have core objectives, which we want, they're just things we want to accomplish within like a cycle of time. So our gun control sector objective is to create a toolkit and a slash like a presentation for other communities and schools to adapt and use, like along the lines of like gun violence and like prevention. And then for our LGBTQ rights sector, to raise funds for trans youth and funds for like binders and other necessities that they might need. And this will be accomplished through like a GoFundMe or some sort of fundraising page, or that, and like some sort of distribution like site or mechanism to trans youth. And then for our racial justice, it's mutual aid pooling and like a reparations movement education. And for our climate change, this is actually our most exciting one. We hope with COVID, we hope to host a in-person conference just talking about, I feel like, fast fashion with the emergence of like Shein and all of these different sites. Like I feel like that's become a huge thing in like Gen Z, like shopping using these sites and just like sparking conversation about fast fashion, because I feel like that's such a multifaceted issue, and it's like there's so many different perspectives on fast fashion and like these sites such as like Shein.
It's actually really exciting. If you do host a in-person event, that is like, first of all, in the time of COVID, that is tough, but also that is exciting and something, I've never even heard of before, specifically if it's about fast fashion. That has like crazy, implications on the environment and on the world around us, yet you still see these trends, whether it be on TikTok or Instagram, of people just doing Shein hauls, and just fast fashion consumption is still huge despite people trying to make it easier to like thrift, or more trendy, quote unquote, to thrift and shop sustainably. The growth of like waste and fast fashion still continues. And I also really love how you divided like the sectors into four of arguably the most, I don't want to say most important because I don't like giving weight to issues when there are just so many in the world, but arguably the most like influential ways to like make an impact in four of today's biggest problems, potentially, from climate change to LGBTQ plus youth to gun violence to racial justice, and the different ways that you plan to sort of attack each of those issues individually. And I'm very excited to see where that all goes, and I'd love to continue supporting that, and I'll make sure to like link some links in the description to more information, all of that. But as we wrap up this podcast, there are a couple questions that we sort of ask everyone who comes on. The first one being, what is a change maker to you?
Someone who's a change maker is someone who listens, because I feel like the people who I look up to the most listen. Like it is not like fake listening. It's like, when I mean fake, I mean like they listen to listen, but they listen and they implement your ideas. And someone who is like kind, because I feel like the best people, the most influential people, have just like an empathy. They have so much empathy for others, and they genuinely want to help people, and they genuinely want to connect with others, and that includes like being a good listener and actually implementing ideas that people want.
Wow, I think it's the first time I've ever heard like an answer for this is like someone who listens, but it's actually so important. And especially for those that actively listen, I think it actually, for the one who is speaking, it means a lot. You would feel like someone is actually listening to you instead of like, yeah, I'm listening to you, but not actually.
Yeah, like that. You have to like genuinely want to listen to somebody's story.
Yes. And then also the people who are like act like they're listening for the time being, and then they don't take those actions especially in the context of like problems and like political or environmental issues and like personal habits. Like I'm talking to people or like it's almost like performative activism where, they're trying to be receptive of it in the moment for, um, their reputation and how you see them and how like the internet sees them, but not making those actual steps towards implementing what they've listened to in their own personal life. So I think it's really finding that combination of listening and then putting that into action, putting what you hear into action.
Yeah, and I think like with listening, you would actually listen to, victims' voices or those that are often overlooked. And through that, you would be able to make a change in like others' lives. And yeah, that really adds up to what a change maker is. And so on that note, since you also talked about how like some of the people you look up to are active listeners or are genuinely kind people, who is one female entrepreneur, activist, or your role model in general, like anyone you look up to?
Hmm. I I'd have to think about that because like in my personal life, I would have to say someone like obviously like my mom and my sister. I look up to them a lot just because of like I feel like both of them are the epitome of like perseverance and like both of them have like persevered a lot and honestly like this may be really cheesy, but I really look up to Sophia. Like because now that I feel like I know her, more than I did before. It's just like she really listens to you. And like if like even on the board of directors, if there's like an internal, like God forbid there's an internal problem, I know that like I can talk to her and just like being able, I think the ability, like her ability to like you can tell she cares by the way she like looks at you. Like you can tell that she like genuinely is listening, isn't like doing anything else, and she genuinely has so much empathy for others, and she's willing to like she's willing to take the back seat if we're talking about an issue that like she might not necessarily have context on. We like she's really willing to like listen to everyone else and just like implement everyone's ideas, whether it's internal or like external.
Yes, I love that so much. And I love the importance you placed on taking the back seat in certain situations, because I think there's this like misconception about leaders who like always are the ones to push things forward or are always the ones at the front of like big issues or like big projects. But at the end of the day, truly the best leaders and truly the people you look up to are the ones who let others take the lead, and really just amplify their voices if in that specific context, they are not the expert. That being said, what is one final piece of advice you would give to any ambitious, excited youth out there looking to be a leader or looking to make a difference in their own communities?
Number one, I keep emphasizing listen to others, just like take advice. Like sometimes you like listen to others' advice. You don't have to take any of it. You can just listen. Um, and number one, go lurking. Like I, as an outreach director, I am accomplished at lurking on Instagram and lurking on TikTok and lurking on LinkedIn. Like if you really want to join a youth organization, literally go search anything like youth organizations about climate, and I'm sure something will pop up in LinkedIn, in Instagram, and you just go follow and you show go show interest. If you want to join a team, go show interest by like liking their posts or email us. This is just a PSA. If you guys have any suggestions, content, anything, literally go email info@zenerations.org. Me who's doing the emailing, and I promise you I will get back to you. If you think it's like crazy, if you think it's really random, email me anyways. I will still respond. Like go email them and be like, "Hi, I want to join your team. How do I do this?" And they'll either tell you that like yes, we have rolling applications, or we can't accept you at this point, but you can do this, this, and this. Like you just have to take initiative. If you take initiative, then people, I know for a fact, I respect the people who take initiative and the people who put themselves out there and are like, hey, I really want to work with you guys. And that's what makes me want them to like join our team. And like once you're on a team, you have to like, it's not like a I'm on a team and now I can put this on my resume kind of thing. You have to genuinely want to put in the work. And not only like put in the work, you have to show a lot of interest. And that's what makes people think that like, oh, I think so and so would be a really good leader if you show interest. And it's not like fake interest, it's genuine interest in what they're doing.
I love that. And really taking any initiatives, like showing that you're genuinely interested and you want to do something, it's much more powerful than like someone handing you a job, if you're brave enough and you're like that passionate enough to say that you want something, you would very much likely get it. So
And like you have to have a willingness to learn, because a lot of the times, even as an outreach director, I've been like out of my depth, and you have to be willing to ask questions. And like, because I meet with a lot of people who are advocating for things that I've never even heard about, and like you have to be willing to learn, and you have to be just willing to adapt and work on the go. And like if your way doesn't work to do something, you have to be willing to be like, okay, like cool, let's do it another way.
yeah, love that. And on that note, before we end, for those that want to follow you on your journey or Zenerations journey, where can they do that?
So go follow us at Zenerations on Instagram. My Instagram is AKSHARAA23. And feel free, if you just to like reach out to say hi, or if you have an idea for Zenerations and like you didn't want to email the official Instagram, feel free to email me, or feel free to DM me on Instagram, or reach out again to the info@Zenerations email, which I will send to you guys. And with literally anything, if you want to say hi, do that. If you want to schedule a meeting with me to talk about something important that you want us to talk about, do it. Literally email me with anything, and I promise I read everything and I think about everything that you guys send.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for all those links, and we'll make sure to link them. But also thank you so much just for coming onto the podcast. I love talking to you, and I'm sure Stephanie shares the same sentiment, but really thank you. And yeah, we'll be in touch.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
Yeah, it
It
really,
really
was.
was.
I
loved
haven't
it,
had
yeah.
such a great podcast recording in a while.
Huge thank you for tuning in to this podcast. We hope we taught you something today.
If you would like to hear the insights of other young changemakers, tune into this podcast every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Hong Kong time, which is GMT +8. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Anchor.
To stay updated and involved, follow at nevertooearly.pod on Instagram. We have all the links in the description of this episode. We'd love to hear from you. Talk to you next week.